Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and The Fool.
Like, it's kind of weird. I think AMD is kind of more customer-focused, and they make more powerful stuff.
But things aren't made for it.
Well, there's that, but also...
It's like Apple.
I feel like they're... No, I think that NVIDIA is kind of like Apple. And AMD's like Linux almost. Well, actually, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One series...
Xbox 121X07 backflip.
Xbox Series X? Series
Maybe.
X.
Yeah.
Holy...
Didn't they bunch of people buy the wrong one?
Yeah. But it, I think the Xbox Series X is, not good. Like, I'm sorry, no. What am I saying? Yes, the name. No, but they all use the AMD's cards.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, they're really using AMD?
They're not out yet. But
But they're going to?
Yeah.
They're not going to use these crazy cheap...
No, they're using special AMD cards. AMD's making them for them.
Ah, okay. And they'll have the ray tracing right now?
Yes. Yeah, that was last generation.
Oh.
It was impractical last generation.
Yeah.
This generation, it's fairly cheap to implement. Relatively cheap, let's say.
Yeah.
Like graphics cards, like the amazingly cheap, super powerful one's still like $500.
Yeah.
But way better. But it kind of like your computer, I think, has a 1080.
Which, my big one?
Yeah.
It has a 280
It's a
T.
Oh, you have the Titan?
Or I might have a 1080 T.
I thought maybe a 1080 Titan. Yeah.
I thought I had a 280, but it might
I
be...
don't think you do.
It might just be a 1080 T then.
Here.
Well, 1080 TX, I think, actually.
Yeah. But this new thing would like blow yours out of the water by so
I
much.
think I should get a capture card, honestly.
Oh, so you can save power.
Yeah.
And also, if your stuff crashes, then you keep the footage. Yeah. If your computer crashes, you keep the footage.
Yeah, I'm also considering getting a different mic than this, like using this as a portable mic, but actually getting a mic that's not off-rated.
I have a Elgato. Now, the thing about it, I don't know if most Elgatos are like this, but it requires a computer to hook up to. It doesn't have it built in.
Yeah.
So you could record to your laptop if you
Yeah.
wanted. If you want, I could lend that to you.
Oh no, these mics are...
That'd be pretty janky.
Yeah.
But
The thing about mics, I think, like mic quality, like people are always like, oh, try to get a high quality mic. Oh, you're using like a Blue Yeti. And it's a good mic, but there's sort of like a scoffing to like using Blue Yeti for people who are really into sound quality. It doesn't matter though.
you're in a different world. I do not hear people talking about microphones. Everybody's saying, "Oh, the Blue Yeti." It's like,
Sorry.
in the real human world, people are like, "You got that little microphone in your Apple earbuds? That'll do. That's fine."
Yeah.
I cannot tell a difference with my headphones about what people use at all. Like, you can be in a warehouse with like a camera microphone, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is fine.
Well, I was trying to film a mini documentary about like around Dad's house of like all the weird stuff, and I was using my cell phone or my phone, but it kept dying because it was -10 out, and I kind of gave up. And then all the snow came. I was like, I'll just wait till the snow's gone and it's summer to film this.
Yeah, but I do think that like video quality and sound quality is a little bit overblown.
Yeah.
Incredibly overblown, actually. I think like 480 and like if you have like...
Well, what was the thing when I was building my computer, I could get like I had the option between two different motherboards, and one motherboard I think like cost $200 more or something. And I was like, okay, so what does this actually do? And I was looking up, and people kept recommending get like the $200 more one. And finally came across someone who said, right, so basically allows your computer to use more RAM. So this one allows your computer to use up to like 124, I think it was, RAM. And this upgrade version lets your computer use 256. And I was like, okay, I'm using like, I think I end up with 64 RAM or something.
64 gigabytes?
Yeah.
Jeez.
something ridiculous. It might be 32 that I have, but I think it's actually 64. It's like, and I felt like, oh, 64, this is pretty insane. And then it's like, oh, no need to get that motherboard, so I didn't.
My laptop, which was by far the most powerful computer in our family for like 5 years, has 6 gigabytes of RAM and integrated graphics. And that was like our hardcore, like, this thing can run Minecraft like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Now, it had a slight advantage because Minecraft is very CPU intensive.
Yeah. Your computer doesn't have a graphics card.
Yeah. But it for some reason, my computer's like, I'm pretty sure Notch and I have the exact same computer because like Minecraft runs way better on it than most computers for some reason.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is now kind of dead, that laptop. So
I have a funny thing actually with Minecraft. This guy said you could be way more famous if you played more games than just Minecraft. And he said you should play Roblox or Terraria. And I basically told him, I will never play Roblox. And while I enjoy Terraria, it's not something I'd like to record.
Roblox, though, it's got a lot of...
It's got a lot of really weird mods.
Yeah, it's basically a game engine.
Yeah. But then he said...
A hideous-looking game engine.
Yeah, he said you should play a hardcore game with...
Like Roblox.
No, like Minecraft hardcore, but with all the mods, like the dragon mods and fairy mods and technology mods. And I was like, are you saying my mod pack or all the mods mod pack, or are you saying all the mods in Minecraft? And he's like, all the mods in Minecraft. It's like, that's not actually possible.
So I don't watch your YouTube's channel, right? And I don't know if like you do a lot of editing or whatnot, but has this guy actually watched you play Minecraft? Because that would be like a half episode long, like...
That was partly my thought.
Because you will fast travel by jumping off a cliff, like... you have...
If I'm forced to play hardcore, I think
you're horrible at staying alive.
I think it's more of... It's like the price of death is more for me. It's like, if I can get away with dying cheaply, then I will.
Even when we played that Terra Firma mod pack I made, like, you died a lot. I think I died twice, and you died, like...
Monsters were
twice
tough.
every time we played. That was a very hard mod pack, but you just had to be cautious.
You never went into the mines like I did.
made the mines.
But you never went into them when the torches were lit and everyone was dying of...
That's because I would put down a sapling, and then I'd put down a water pool, and then
then an earthquake would happen, and who built all the bridges and fixed everything whenever earthquake happened? It was me, and I'd go in there and die, because you were too important working at your precious smithy, and I was getting you materials.
But it's just because you didn't know how to do the smithing.
I didn't bother.
Oh, I love that mod pack, actually. That was so cool. I wonder if I still have it somewhere, because I don't know if Terraform Craft 3 is ever coming out. Maybe it did and I wouldn't notice, but yeah, mods for like Heroes of Might and Magic and stuff are looking amazing. And Project Iron Fist released a new faction, so now there's cyborgs in Heroes of Might and Magic 2.
How dare they?
No, they did it in the style.
How dare they add sci-fi elements to my fantasy?
To my Might and Magic universe.
Yeah, to my Might and Magic.
There's no science on Enroth.
Or even the campaigns that are non-Enroth, like crashing a spaceship into the undead planet.
Like, what's his name? Archibald, the villain of Heroes of Might and Magic 2.
Yeah, he's a master of nuclear physics.
Yeah. Or he's the only person on Enroth that knows them, I think.
Yeah.
Or is that even... Yeah, that's Enroth.
Yeah, but it was Archibald. So actually, it's kind of interesting. One thing I saw from the newsletter is that Era of Chaos, I think, is the Heroes 3 world. Because they kept changing worlds afterwards. Mm. And so the guy's like, I never see a story again based in like this world, but Era of Chaos is...
What's Era of Chaos?
It's the free Chinese mobile game of Might and Magic.
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh, so he talks about it?
Yeah, he's like, he played and it's like, it's alright, but it's alright for its game genre of being like a whatever it is, I can't remember. But he doesn't like it.
Theft.
It's not theft, it was done through...
Ubisoft did it?
Yeah, Ubisoft licensed a free mobile game.
Oh, okay. Huh.
which isn't free because it's a Chinese mobile game, and so it's like got a ridiculous amount of microtransactions.
Well, fair enough then, I guess, to them.
Yeah.
But yeah. What else was exciting with Heroes of Might and Magic?
Has the Horror Abyss update come out yet?
No, I think they come out New Year's typically is what they go for.
Ah, okay.
But I didn't they reworked a bunch of their artwork, which for the units.
Oh.
And it looks quite a bit better. Like the one I didn't like the most was the mechanic, like the one with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
And they haven't shown what they're doing with that, but they did say that's our like top priority right now.
Is the Quetzalcoatl still gorgeous?
No, they're like, oh, this is too pretty. They kept that. Although
because whoever made that model like put blood, sweat, and tears into that thing.
I think there's a lot of I wouldn't call them complaints, criticisms with it.
Yeah.
Which is that the order is really weird. Like
the upgrades.
The upgrade is ugly, and
because it looks all like.
I see why they did it, but I kind of wish that the upgrade wasn't pure red. Like they encase it in ugly armor, but they keep like the gorgeous colors because right now they don't feel like the same unit. Yeah, it feels weird. And like the dragon line, they argue does the same thing, but the dragon line only changes. Also, you know how they redo artwork? Yeah. This is a bit of a tangent, but the black dragon really needs to be redone. I think it's the ugliest looking thing in Heroes of Might and Magic. Yeah. Like it's not a bad design. It's just its face. Have you ever like looked? It's a blur of pixels. Like I think they messed up on it or something. Like I think the sprite's like corrupted or something. Like it looks weird.
It's actually one of the things I kind of am upset with the Black Dragon models just in general of number 3. Yeah. Because number 2, I think, has the best dragon model in almost any medium.
Yeah, definitely.
Like when I look up, it always disappoints me because Here's My Magic Black Dragon is the more common one, which is a swamp dragon. When I think of a black dragon, I think of the black dragon with like golden scale, like the golden belly, and like the almost it has that like Asian sort of like golden feathers coming off his ears and head in a way. Yeah. And it's like
the number 3 is like a porcupine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like I don't know, there's something about the
porcupine
look of number 2's gold dragon. That I found like one well drawn, like someone actually went in. I think they basically tried to like draw a number 2's dragon in detail, and it looked really good. And I was like, why can't other people draw dragons like this?
That's actually my concern for Fanstratics is the concept art for the vampire, especially
the feral vampire.
Yeah, it looked very like Witcher 3, rather than Heroes of Might and Magic. Yeah, because Heroes of Might and Magic, I always think of number 2 for the art direction. Yeah, like the art looks fantastic, but the art direction is not what I want personally.
It looks. There's a guy who had like a whole book of art like it. It actually, the art slightly reminds me of some of where is it? Howe's work.
Oh, Jonathan Howe.
Yeah, the art style. It's like sort of. I don't know. Like
I'm not sure if that's his name, but like the guy that does Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah, like some of his earlier art and some of his more experimental. Yeah, it reminds me of that.
Like the Fanstratic stuff.
Yeah.
I find it's a bit too like superhero-y maybe. Like, you know, everything's got to have muscles on their muscles and everything's got to be like covered in. You know, it reminds me of
too many things on them.
Rob Liefeld or whatever his name is. Like they have to have pouches everywhere.
Yeah. There's actually, so Dota did this thing where basically a bunch of people made their own models, like with tools and the Dota engine, and then Dota basically vetted them, and Valve, I guess, and like put I think over 100 of them into a contest, and people could vote on them. And then the highest voted ones would be put into these chests that people could buy and basically put in the game, and then they upgrade them a bit afterwards. But anyways, during the voting process, there was some, it's like, what could they do to this model? Like, why does he require this many spikes and twirling blades on his body?
Yeah, it reminds you know.
It's like they added too much stuff. Like there was this one model of big contention, but my group of friends, which was like this vampire hunter, and it's like his original model is elegant and simple. And this thing looks like it would weigh him down so much.
It's like Warhammer 40k or
Yeah.
Warhammer 8th edition,
Yeah.
kind of like that. But yeah, so the other model they really redid was the gunslinger.
Mm-hmm.
So they got rid of his sniper rifle,
Yeah.
and they replaced it with more of a steampunk looking rifle, bit wider, bit more brass in it.
Yeah.
And then they changed his looks because he had that sort of like grizzled, like cowboy look.
Yeah.
They tried to make him look a bit more Spanish because they don't want it to look American because it's meant to be a fantasy realm, and so they didn't want to go like too American with it because there's no fantasy in America or something. I don't know. I mean, Quetzalcoatl is kind of American fantasy, really. But so they did that, and then what I didn't realize, they haven't actually revealed the tier 4 at all.
No.
They haven't shown it once. Oh, they also reworked the halflings, which is interesting.
Mm.
I'm not sure what that means for the old halfling. Like if he's going to no longer be a neutral unit or what. But yeah. The halfling's also like the best tier 1 archer, I think, possibly. So that's kind of interesting.
Well,
unupgraded tier 1 archer.
The halfling in number 2 is, I think, the best tier 1 unit by far.
Yeah.
And that's because, I mean, it's 1 to 3 damage, and it's ranged, and it has a pretty good speed.
Is the centaur tier 1?
Yes, the centaur is 1 to 2 damage, though.
But it would have a lot more health, doesn't it?
Yes, but the halfling is 1 to 3, and bless is a level 1 spell.
Right.
So, and halflings also have better population production.
Like, all the tier 1s are actually pretty decent. Like, goblins, very high attack. Skeletons are, like, okay, but they're easy to get.
Yeah.
You got the halflings, very strong archer.
Yeah.
Centaurs, okay archer, but really good health.
Fairies are one of the fastest units in the game without retaliation.
Very fast, very high retaliation. And then peasants are great for getting ghosts.
Yeah, and necromancers.
Yeah. But yeah, I was like, oh, there's a unit to reveal still.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your bets? So, what do we got? We got a Mongolian deathworm. We've got...
A porcupine.
We've got an armadillo.
Yeah.
We've got a Quetzalcoatl. We've got a mechanic. We've got...
A laser mech.
A...
Robot
thing. We've got a Wait, did I say Quetzalcoatl already?
Yep.
Okay. We've got a sharpshooter. And...
A halfling.
And there's 2 tier 7s. That's why we have 8 creatures.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't realize we're missing the tier 4, I think, as well. So what... They seem to be kind of Badlandsy related.
Yeah.
Like steep step wasteland.
Well, do they have anyone riding anything?
Oh, and that's the new land, is the wasteland, isn't it?
Do they have anyone riding anything?
No.
Then it's probably going to be a mounted thing.
You think?
Yeah.
Does everyone have a mounted thing? The dungeon doesn't.
No, but the dungeon has the manticore, which is good enough.
Right. So you think it's going to be like a big 4-legged...
Yeah. Something. Okay. I think it's going to be a 4-legged... I mean, they have the deathworm They have, like, 4 4-legged things.
Did you hear... Did I tell you about the armadillo, what they're doing with its animations?
No.
So it just kind of shuffles along.
Yeah.
But if you cast haste on it, it curls up into a ball. And like, I love that. That's amazing.
That's a great detail. Dota actually does that with a lot of their models. If you
Smash Bros does that with a lot.
If you hit a high enough, like when you're really hurt, everyone has a limping animation.
Yeah.
If you're slow, you just move really slow. But if you get past a certain threshold with speed, most models in the game actually get a new animation for running. And there's some animations, like there's some expensive skins which like also have those animations. Like there's one hero with wings, and she usually runs along. But if she hits like 550 speed, she starts flying across the ground, and her wings spread out, and they have like quite a few heroes like that.
I love it when games have tiny details like that. That really adds to them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking...
Well, another detail just like that I really like is there's certain heroes, when they get close to other heroes, they draw their weapons or hold them up. Like there's this one guy who rides along. He's basically like a ring wraith, his animation. And when he gets close enough to an enemy, he lifts up his sword and blue fire runs across it. And Mars basically runs along, and if he's chasing someone who's about to die, he starts dancing and swinging his spear about and basically like taunting, like, I'm going to hit you, and you're going to die.
So I think, like, you know the wizards, like, similar from there, right? Like, they could give them the boar, but there's already the boars, and they're more of a strong barbarian type thing. Like, the boar
Armored
rider
boars.
seems kind of like it'd be perfect.
Armored boars.
But boars are like tier 2, I think.
Yeah.
Wolves or coyotes would also be good, but there's already wolves.
Jackals.
But I think like they'd be too similar to wolves still. But I think like a wolf or a jackal or a coyote is kind of... Like, a coyote is, I think, the perfect unit.
Yeah.
But tier 4 is way too high for a coyote.
What about a bobcat?
I don't know how you could make that work. Like, there's not really any cat units in the game except the manticore. I guess that'd be hard to do, but like a bobcat sort of thing would be good.
What are they called? The cat fairies things.
Like Malkins or
Yeah, Malkin.
yeah, but
Malkin.
those are a bit too like
Irish.
I don't know what they are, but I don't think they're like sort of Mexican.
Yeah.
Like, you want Mexican Spanish type.
Malkin might even be Russian.
I want them to add those Lishies or whatever. Leshies, like those little tickle dudes.
Or the tree guardians, the other version of them.
Yeah, they just
The
squonk.
Yeah, they got squonk.
Ooh, actually, not the squonk. This one, like a Sasquatch would actually kind of work, I think.
Yeah.
Might be a bit hot, and because it's like the idea is technology versus.
What about like they just have the Cyclops, and there's already ogres and trolls. And stuff.
The troll, though, they could give to them.
Yeah, the troll is.
They could rework the troll. Like, nobody would miss the troll.
I really am disappointed with the troll contrast. Like, that's one of the models I'm most disappointed about is the troll contrast between 2 and 3.
The mummy.
I'm also disappointed about the okay,
And the troll.
Yeah, the mummy, the troll,
The boar.
I
think those are my
the
top.
peasant.
Actually, I don't like the new peasant, but like I didn't love the old peasant.
I like the look of the old peasant, even if he sucks. I like his look. I actually don't like most of the... Do I like any of the neutrals? I just don't like their... They look so washed out and depressed. Like, all the neutrals look kind of gross.
Fairy dragon.
Besides the fairy dragon.
Enchanter.
I've never been a fan of the enchanter. I do like the sharpshooter.
Sharpshooter, yeah.
I do like the sharpshooter.
Nomad. I like the Nomad.
Okay, he's good.
He's like one of the best. I don't like Heroes of Might and Magic 3 models. I've talked about this
I don't
before.
like the enchanter, though.
Number 2 just looks so much better.
Yeah.
And Fanstratics, they said they're going number 3's route, so I'm a little disappointed, but they could add a gnome. It's not quite like... They have gnomes in number 4.
Yeah.
And they are in a... They drive like a dragon.
Yeah. They could have a dark elf.
Right, don't they? No.
There's dark elves in the world.
Yeah, but no.
Who power like spaceships or something, or I can't remember. What about mechanized undead? They could have some sort of weird undead thing.
I don't know.
Or a werewolf.
Werewolf. Could they do like a skin stealer sort of thing?
They could. Like its first form, it could be like shape shifted just naturally. And
you know,
its later one could be like forced by weird drugs into a constant state of monstrousness.
You ever play that mod? It adds like the Sylvian faction or something, and they have like the druid, and when he attacks, he's a bear. When he moves, he's a bird, and when he defends, he's like a tree or something. Yeah, like someone like him would kind of be cool.
Yeah, and when they drug him up, he's constantly in shapeshifted form.
Yeah, dude, they could add a sphinx. Like, that'd be a bit weird that there's a statue of a sphinx and a sphinx. Yeah, a sphinx would be kind of cool.
For context, Cameron is looking through
I'm looking through a book of mythological creatures.
Yes.
Oh, they could add a Catoblipas.
No!
That would actually fit. Like, it would fit, and then it could, like, poop fire. Although they already have the flamethrower. Yeah. A centaur would actually work really well, but the Sylvians took them.
Yeah. Not the Sylvians. Not elves, they are the...
Stronghold?
No.
I never learned them,
maybe.
Really.
Okay, they're elves, but...
A chimera... chimera seems...
He actually, in the third one, he addresses the whole thing about races and factions.
I think they made the right choice.
Yeah, he talks about it, though, in his third article. Because people are asking about factions and castles. Like, are you going to go castle route or faction route? And he's like, explains why they chose to do castles.
I think like they made the right choice, except sort of. I think they made the right choice thematically, but that Rosewater that does Magic the Gathering has something very important where he talks about people being able to remember is incredibly important as well. And number two's factions are much more memorable.
Yeah, well, they're like wizard and warlock, and
necromancer, enchantress. No, not sorry, a sorceress.
Yeah. Where number 3 is just different names for castles, or not even like Rampart is a part of a castle, and it's called Rampart. And then they have fortress.
Rampart's the elf one.
Yeah. They have fortress, stronghold,
dungeon. Yeah, like
conflicts is I guess a little.
There's 9 names for like buildings.
And it's the Inferno, right?
Yeah. And then Cove Town.
And Tower. It's the Tower.
Yeah. Like Inferno, Cove, and Conflicts, I think like those you're like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But then Stronghold, Fortress,
Tower.
Tower is like, that's the wizards.
Yeah.
But like
what's the swamp?
Exactly. Like, are they the fortress? I think they're the fortress.
Then who are the barbarians?
I think they're Stronghold.
Okay. And knights are castle, right?
Or Fortress? Is Fortress done already? We already took Fortress.
Yeah.
And then, it's...
Oh, Necropolis. Okay,
Necropolis is fine.
Yeah.
But it's a bit...
4 of their buildings are little...
Yeah. It's like, a stronghold or a fortress. Yes.
Okay, I think Stronghold... Oh.
The fortress is the swamp.
Yeah.
Stronghold is the barbarians.
Yeah.
And the knights are... Castle. And then the ramparts are the elves.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing. There is another name for them that is much easier to remember. Elves, knights, undead.
Or you can even go elves, humans. Like, they could be humans instead of knights.
Well, they kind of ruined that with the griffins.
Yeah.
And the angels.
Yeah. I was always disappointed by the griffins and angels, honestly.
And the tier 4 crusaders.
Oh, actually, so Paul Marrero and his husband's costumes were pretty good.
Romero?
Yeah.
Oh, for Halloween?
Yeah. So he wore a brown monk's robe, and his husband wore a blue monk robe. They were doing like their friends that they also did Halloween with. Like one of them was dressed up as a nun. I can't remember the fourth guy, but they're all church related. Yeah. But just like a brown robe and that blue robe.
I'm the better version. Let's fight for it. It's amazing that he's so like stuck to Here's My Magic. Like that's not his.
You watch his videos, right? They're starting to be made in Russian now. He's like learning Russian to make these videos.
Like Michael Van de Vos, right? Yeah. Like it's not like everything he ever does is like.
Did Michael Van de Vos ever touch Might and Magic?
No, but he did. He did Unreal Tournament and he did Age of Wonders.
Yeah, but...
And he's considered one of the best composers out there, like for video game music.
Yeah, but he never touched Might and Magic.
Never touched that drug that was Might and Magic. Yeah, once Age of Wonders makes a perfect game, come back and see.
I think it's also just Paul Marrero's personality. Like, he's a very jovial, happy person, and the community really likes him for that, and so he's sort of gone caught up in it.
But I wonder if, like... he was a lot more invested than like Van de Vos they didn't even have for the second game.
Yeah.
Like but they made
his music's so weird.
But they made a very special point. They're like, we're getting him for the third game. Like and he's in Planetfall as well, I believe.
Yes.
Like they really wanted him because he is an important part of those games.
Yeah.
But he doesn't you don't think of him when you think of Age of Wonders necessarily, whereas you do. Like, his music is some of my favorite video game music ever.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite video game music, even.
Yeah.
But then you have Romero, and even though I don't like his music quite as much, it's, like, tied to the games.
Yeah.
Like, they're not the games without his music at all. And, yeah, I don't know.
So, did I tell you, actually, about my first few days of work, the music I listened to?
No.
So, I started out, and I was like, okay... I should get a podcaster going. So I was like, data, I can listen to some music. And so I started up the soundtrack from Age of Empires 2.
Like, down.
No, like like when you're playing, like just the full game music. So like the, yeah. Yeah, and I was picking up wood and putting it in piles. It just felt so appropriate. Like, it's actually really good music for, like, just moving resources around.
You know what's amazing about...
And then after that, I listened to the number Age of Wonders one's music, and it's also pretty good.
RTSs don't have to deal with this as much,
Yeah.
but I do think Age of Wonders... Empires does it pretty good.
Yeah.
But when you make like a 4X or whatever Heroes of Might and Magic is, which is not really a 4X, it's... what was that great name for them? Strategy adventure game or something.
Yeah.
They're long. They're much longer games than most video games. And you can't just have like infinite soundtracks.
Well, what is it? Like, so you play the main campaign of a game like The Witcher.
Yeah.
Or even Baldur's Gate. And it's like 60 hours of gameplay. Like, that was their big advertisement.
Yeah.
And then you can spend 10 hours doing one game of Heroes of Might and Magic.
Yeah.
And then you can do the campaign. You're like, oh, I beat all the campaigns. Those were tough. And then you do scenarios, and some scenarios are insanely long. Like, there is so much to those
I think
games.
you can cheat by rapidly switching music.
Yeah.
It keeps it a lot more, you don't notice it as much, maybe.
Yeah.
Like Heroes of Might and Magic, whenever you go into a castle, it has its own sound. All the different types of ground have their own music.
Yeah. There's 3 different battlefield songs, isn't there? Or is there just one?
There's at least one. There's 3 in Age of Wonders, I think.
In number 2, is there a siege song? Or is the start of every battle just have that music?
Dun, 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 dun.
Because when I think about it, I think about the catapult launching sound. That's what I think about, like, more than the actual theme.
I don't know. And that's part of... Like, Skyrim has, like, 6 hours of music or something?
Yeah.
Like, it's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you don't notice. Like, you're like, yeah, this is fine. Like, guy's really good at that, too. Like, it's got to be music that just kind of fades into the background, but enhances.
And then you get the combat music while you're running away from things, and it's just going on forever.
Yeah, and I think the combat music maybe helps the sort of switch. Like, I don't know if the switching helps or not. Like, a game like Portal, they cheated with generative music, sort of. Like, you create it as you go. But there's real talent to...
Sound mixing and sound design in video games is super important.
Yeah. Actually, I've been watching this TV show about musicians. And it's weird because it's based on a manga, I believe.
Is this Forest Piano?
Forest Piano?
Your Lie in April?
Yes.
Okay. I was going through the different animes that I know that are based on musicians.
Okay.
I watched like the first few
I didn't say it was
episodes.
an anime.
Yeah, but you say it's based on manga.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
I watched the first few episodes of those and got bored.
So the thing about doing something like that is you have a manga and you're like, oh, this person plays like this person plays like this is amazing.
Yeah.
Then when you actually have sound involved in your production, suddenly you need like this person to sound amazing on the piano. Then you need this person to sound like worse or better, and that's a lot harder.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that like they even took on that challenge. I thought they at one point they cheat. They have the guy playing the piano with violin accompaniment, even though there's no violin like accompanist at all. Yeah. And then another time they have a violinist playing, I think it is. And there's like drums accompanying her. And it's like there's no one playing drums, but they're trying to add more to it. And they'll do like visuals with like light, and they'll be like twinkling sounds like ding 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 ding. So you know it's amazing, so your brain's kind of tricked into like, yeah, this is good. Yeah. Like they do also have very good music. But it's...
Does it have the CG fingers on the piano? Because that's a big complaint about anime trying to do piano, is like these creepy, spindling, like...
I think it's... It might be, but not so much that I noticed.
Okay.
Like, I did notice that they seem to be unusually well held together, sort of.
Yeah, because there's... Like, other things, I think they probably, for a thing based on a piano player, they probably put a lot more work into it. Yeah. But, like, there's a common complaint in the anime that I've heard of, which is, like, how god awful it looks when they have someone play the piano with like CG fingers running across piano keys.
So for the most of the violin music, they actually just had still images of the violinists playing. And then for the main one, they actually animated them. Because I imagine it's a lot more work than normal to try to make someone look like they're playing a song. And it's... so the Your Lie in April, it's about like one of the best pianists ever when he was 12. And then his mother died and he lost the ability to hear piano music. And so he can't play the piano anymore. And then he meets a violinist and she asks for him to accompany her. And it's sort of about him like trying to learn how to play again, basically. And there's some sort of subtitle like my life changed when I met a girl under my life began to change when I met a girl under the cherry blossom tree in May or something like that. So the idea is where was I going with this? So it's about music, basically. And it's weird to think of the genre because I think the genre would be basically about, they call it emotional or something on Netflix, but I think you could call it like I guess it's a drama, but it's about music and it's about sort of guilt, I guess. And I was talking last time about like how I don't like basically every anime out there. This one I will allow to pass into like the minimum bar required for, because how I found it was I just went on to what's that website called, Ranker, I think. And I looked up best shows on Netflix. And then it's like, okay, this is like number 5 or something. It's like, okay, here we go.
I got so bored of it.
And it's got so many. It relies on or it uses so many tropes that I've noticed in anime, like suddenly little chibi figurines, or suddenly like their faces are blank, or or I don't know why their teardrops are like the size of like a water balloon, but there's a lot of stuff going on. The writing is a bit over the top. It's really laying it on like the purple prose sort of thing, where this gets a lot of respect, I've noticed, from people that don't read as much. So maybe it's just snobbery if you don't like it. But what people do to sound like their writing's fancier, more sophisticated, is they will use a lot of adverbs. So they'll say something like, it's a particularly unique sort of thing. And it's, oh, he's got a fancy voice. Well, he could have just said, it's unique. You don't need to say particularly unique, or they'll say like a lot of adverbs in there.
Listening to the radio on the way here, and so Writers and Company. And the guy was talking about how he expects authors to make it easy to read. And he was saying, like, I can't remember what exact thing was, but he's basically disagreeing with like the host. He's saying like, no, authors, like the reader has to be easy for a reader. And he's saying like, I have stopped reading books if they're hard to read. And he's like, at one point, I think he's talking about like in the 1980s, there's this belief that books have to be hard to read and reading's difficult and that's what makes it good. And he's like, maybe it was the case then, maybe they believe it, but it's not the case anymore, so stop making your books difficult to read.
I think it's a false assumption as well that the authors have, because you look at something like a Dawn of Wonder, and the guy's sentences are like a paragraph long, and it's really hard to read, and you're not getting much out of it. And you look at something like Maps of Meaning. Again, it's basically impossible to decipher those sentences. He needs to put periods in his work. You look at Lord of the Rings, where I think this stemmed from, and he has very long descriptive writing, but it's not incomprehensible. It's actually fairly easy to follow. And it's because if his sentence is long, it's long for a reason, and it's not ridiculous. Whereas these...
I think it also partly just stems not from Lord of the Rings, but just people believing books have to be fancy to be good or prestigious or something.
Yeah, they think you have to... And they think old language was like very like florid and like elaborative.
I can't find my save, but I wrote like the beginnings like with Lord Rain and those assassins. I want to find that and rewrite it, because I think I was trying to be too clever by half. And I can basically like reduce a lot of the fluff in that and make it a lot better.
Like if you There's a baby screaming in the background.
Yeah.
We're just recording before a birthday party, so we got all sorts here. Well, not all sorts. Fairly small because, pandemic, but the immediate family of 6 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I really do agree with that. Like, if...
So what one thing they'll do is it'll be like... if they're like, what is this feeling I'm experiencing? The rustling of the cherry blossom trees and I think that might just be a Japanese thing slightly.
Yeah.
They seem to love their poetic language. And it's not bad, like it's not complicated. It's just like, it's a bit over the top, but that's almost stylistic.
Yeah.
It just feels a bit amateurish almost, but at the same time, that is Japanese. Like, Japanese isn't amateurish, but I think their culture is a bit more... prone to poetry.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed actually is they seem to be obsessed with the idea of heroes being alone. So I tried watching a bit of another one of the top rated ones, which is The Devil is a Part-Timer. And
how's that top? That is so bad.
I think it's actually better than most. Like
it's enjoyable, but it is bad.
I don't think it's bad. Like it's a lot better written than like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, for example, which I don't know if that'll get me in trouble because I think a lot of people like that, but like it is better written than that by far, I'm gonna say.
Yeah. The problem with The Devil's a Part-Timer is it suffers from shonen syndrome,
which is
actually
no, I'm not gonna say it's better written by far. It's better written, but not by far.
I mean, it does do a good job because he can't get any mana, so he can't like have any of his powers. But basically, Shonen Syndrome, I don't know if it's called that, but basically the main character has everything planned out, and they're always powerful enough for the situation, and when the moment needs it, suddenly they power up, or their emotions push them through to the point they need to be. And
so it's like the Dresden Files.
Kind of actually. Though Shonen Syndrome, you'll never get shot in the back of the head or like beaten up in a back alley. And
so maybe I haven't watched far enough into it. I've only watched a few episodes. I don't know how many you watched.
I watched the whole thing.
Okay, but right now it seems to me that the devil is just pretending he knows what he's doing. Yeah. So it's kind of like...
well, it does do a better job of that as well, because I think he is in over his head.
I think he's just pretending to be in control. Like, I don't think he actually has a plan for everything, and he doesn't actually know everything will work out. He's just being optimistic, and he's being... like, he doesn't want to look like he's losing control.
Yeah.
But I did notice they have this really dumb line. So this is why I'm taking back that the writing's way better than Brotherhood.
Yeah. Because
they say that a lone hero rose to stand against him. And with her allies and armies... And, hang on a second there. Well, a lone hero?
She was a lone hero, but her rising up to stand against him brought the allies and armies.
So they seem to be obsessed a little bit with, like, individuals. And I think, like, even if you go back to someone like Musashi, like, he was the sort of samurai that was apart from all the others. And,
Musashi has such
fought on his own. And...
do you know that guy tried a lot to become a proper samurai? Like, actually serve under lords and become a vassal?
Mm-hmm.
He tried so many times, and they kept rejecting him.
Was he actually a samurai? Or was he a ronin?
He was basically a ronin until, even at the end of his life, he didn't become, what are they called? A vassal. He became a permanent house guest.
Mm.
And the guy basically did that as a favor to him, which is like, you're not beholden to me. You can leave whenever you want. We are friends. You're not serving me. There's no taxes. You have no responsibility of war. If I die before you, you don't have to commit suicide. Which is actually... so, Musashi never married.
Yeah.
And in his writings...
not surprising.
In his writings, he actually talks about, love is something that gets in the way of being a good fighter.
That's what smelly people say. They're trying to justify it.
But I think he adopted 3 sons, over time. And I'm pretty sure 2 of them died by committing suicide because one of their lords died in combat, and so they committed suicide. And the other one's lord was a really old guy who died of sickness, and all of his vassals committed suicide because he died.
That seems wasteful.
Yeah, so that's like part of the reason why Musashi was made a guest instead of a vassal.
That's the reason Japan was feudal until like the 1800s, because they couldn't pass down knowledge.
Well, it was brutal, like going through the translation. I listened to audiobook of the Five Rings.
Yeah.
However, this was an extended edition of basically a guy who put a ton of work into translating all of Musashi's works and finding the historical evidence and like talking about perspectives of people thinking that Musashi was a charlatan versus the greatest fighter ever.
Yeah.
So he went through all this detail and basically like talked about Musashi's life. So Musashi, the Five Rings book,
Yeah.
he spent the two last years of his life in a cave writing those books for his students. But basically, before that, he's like, I'm about to die. So I'm going to give away all my stuff to people I know. And then I'm going to live in this cave and write the book of my art.
He knew about the art of war, right? Like the five...
No.
No? I thought the Five Rings was based on it or something.
Nope. The Five Rings is based off his experiences through martial arts. The Gunnin no Show.
So it's more just of his life experience.
Yeah, the Five Rings is actually I was surprised by it because I think it's I might have to re-listen to the Book of Emptiness because I don't remember what that was about. I might have been like there might be machinery or I was thinking about something else while I was listening to it, but
there's nothing there. It's blank.
I think it's the Book of Fire. Is actually how to do his combat techniques, like the sideways slap. Like, know how in Japanese anime they have like fire slash or like the triple strike or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that actually stems from Musashi.
What's his fault?
Well, no, that's just how Japanese wrote their combat techniques, and they held on to them because the Europeans had stuff like that, like half swording, roof stance, bear stance, whatever. It's just they moved on to muskets and stopped holding on to those, where the Japanese had them forever. Like when Musashi was a swordsman, samurai stopped using armor at that point. So it got really weird because they had a ton of wars in Japan. It was incredibly warlike, and so their art was based around just constantly like fighting and armor, and their swords actually used to be straight. Their swords came from China. And then they became curved because samurai were mostly horsemen. And the curved sword is actually better on a horse.
Oh.
Because it allows more reach and a better sweeping action. Whereas the Chinese sword is designed for stabbing, whereas you don't stab with a sword on horseback, you sweep. And then they started moving to foot combat because their forts got really good. And so... But they still liked the curved sword, so their whole style became based around slashing. And then they had this ridiculously long period of men who trained more than they fought. And then...
Well, you think that'd be normal?
Well, it was like basically like some people trained and never fought.
Right.
But a lot of people died in this period because you would spar with blades, and when you did sparring, you didn't wear armor. And then everyone learned to fight without armor. And so at some point, I think it's like maybe a little after Musashi or like during his period of his life, wars were getting fought by samurai without armor. And so it just became like how good of a swordsman you were in combat and like avoiding gunshots and arrows. And
I'm just imagining a Japanese battlefield, right? And they're like, cat stalks the courtyard. Boar rushes down the mountain.
Well... So the
eagle flies through the fen.
Musashi only had
Susanoo's whirling, twirling implosion.
Musashi only had 4 stances. So a lot of martial arts, especially with swords, had a ton of stances. Musashi had 4, and it was like middle defense, side defense, and high defense stance or something. And then everything else was based on striking in his forms. And he's like, you only need these 4 defenses. Everyone else's like different stances are just variations. Figure it out in the moment what variation you need to block. And he's like, also this whole thing like, you should always be trying to hit your opponent. Your goal is to hit, not to block. if you can hit them before they hit you, then they're dead, and you don't get hit. So
Well, that's like the opposite of Smash Bros. Advice. You know what the famous saying in Smash Bros?
no.
Don't get hit.
Oh, well, no, it's
His is hit.
yeah, hit. Well, you don't get hit by hitting is his whole thing. Like, so many of his techniques are like metagaming to the extreme sense. Like, do a false swing and then carry through with it, or hit strong, then hit weak, then with the weak hit, move through it and strike them true. And this, like,
Yeah, me. See.
yeah, I might have to re-listen to it, but.
But the takeaway here is he's the guy responsible for all the dumb move calling notes.
No, that's just Japanese culture, I think. Like, they like naming their techniques, but
someone had to start.
well, I think he based it off of other people's stuff, partly.
No, that's him.
Okay.
It starts with him. Stupid Musashi. And
So, the other thing I didn't realize about all the duels he was in is, like, he won all of them. Like, every official duel he was in.
yeah, he's alive, isn't he?
He won. And only 2 of his opponents lived. And I was like, that's insane. Like, how high mortality rates duels are.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
And Musashi said, don't fight with people unless you're dueling. And if you're dueling, aim to kill unless they are truly a noble person.
Yeah, you don't want them coming back.
Yeah, but he's like, he's saying, like, only if they're a truly noble person, don't kill them. But if they are noble but not truly noble, kill them, because don't give them the disrespect of letting them off, like, alive and dishonoring them.
Well, they might also come for you again, I guess.
Yeah.
So actually, this kind of ties into something I've wanted to talk about for a long time, interestingly. So he very rarely lost. But I think part of that, like, he was very skilled, obviously.
Yeah, well, he had something like over 56 duels. He fought in 2 sieges and 3 battles.
But there's a lot more than just skill going on there.
Yeah.
He chose his battles. Like,
oh, yeah, that's a part of the 5 rings. It talks about choosing your battle.
Like, the one I know about that's famous is he showed up like an hour early and then like ambushed the guys and like because they wanted to ambush him, but he showed up like way too early and then he just murdered them.
Yeah. Well,
and then he would like never take baths so that he could never be like attacked while he was defenseless.
Yeah. His fighting style was actually 2 swords. He's like, you have 2 hands, you have 2 swords in your belt, use them all at the same time. Like, that was his fighting style. But he's like, if you're in a building, use the small sword. If you're in an open field, use the big sword. If you can, use a really big sword. And if you can, use a spear, because the spear's like the biggest sword. Like, he was all about like using the best weapon and like the most appropriate thing. Like, one of the things about him actually, which is very remarked upon about his works, is he was a poet, an artist, a master of calligraphy, and a carpenter. Like, he built 2 castles. Like, he was on building crews of castles, and he's also a strategist. He wanted to be a strategist in war. He never got hired for that. But why he was an artist is so he could be a better swordsman. And it's basically, like, discipline. Like, he just did a ton of different kinds of discipline. But he definitely picked his fights.
Yeah, and so this ties to something I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Which is the Red Baron. Another historical figure who won all but 2 of fights he was in, basically.
And, well, weren't both of them against anti-air guns?
Possibly.
Yeah, like the 2 he lost,
Yeah, well, they don't know how he died
Yeah.
exactly. They think it was an anti-air gun. And the first time he was shot down, I don't remember what that was. But the Red Baron, he didn't take any fight he couldn't win.
Yeah.
Like, you think of him and you think about him and you think, okay, this is like the best dogfighter ever. And he was. But victory isn't skill alone.
Yeah.
Like, there was possibly better dogfighters out there.
Yeah.
But the Red Baron maybe could never beat them.
Yeah.
But that dogfighter might lose to someone worse than him, whereas the Red Baron would never lose to someone worse than him.
Well, didn't the Red Baron quite often attack people from behind? Like, just fly from cloud cover and, like, shoot their tails?
I don't know, but he would he would always err on the side of caution. Like
Yeah.
he was actually an incredibly cautious person. Like his whole like because he trained other squads because he was like
Yeah.
the best the Germans had. So he would tell them like never leave formation, never leave friendly territory, like never overextend. Only attack if you can win. Only attack if the wind's in your favor, if the sun's in your favor.
What was the life expectancy of pilots?
It's like nothing.
Like a week?
Or less, yeah.
Yeah, like these people were put on a plane and said fly, and if you came back, then you were a pilot.
Yeah. If you shot someone down, you're an ace. Good job.
Yeah, whereas the Red Baron, I think he trained flying before the war.
I don't think he did.
No?
No, I don't think so. But he was just really good at it, and but he was super cautious. Like he never took it, and that's why his death is really weird, actually, because he was way out in enemy territory when he got shot down. And so the theory is, first of all, the person he was chasing had been trying to shoot down his brother's plane because they were both fighters. So they think he might have been like really protective of his brother.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but still, like his brother got away safely, so you think he would just pull back. He had brain damage after he was shot down the first time. He took a year to recover, and they think he might have never recovered from that brain damage, and so he might have not been thinking clearly. Also, the wind conditions were really unusual, and I think it was cloudy or something, so they think what might have happened is he was used to the wind being against him, so he figures like, okay, I'm flying essentially, 20 kilometers an hour, let's say.
Yeah.
So if I fly for 10 minutes, I'll be here.
Yeah.
But the wind was with him, so he's flying like 140 kilometers an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
So in 10 minutes, he is on like a different part of the country.
Yeah.
Well, he's in a different country, basically.
Yeah.
And so he's like, so he's completely out of position. But yeah, so it's sort of a... Victory is about how you play... Or how you do, like, we'll call it play, like, even though it's like warfare or it's whatever it is. It's about how you play, not just how good you are. Like, this, in arm wrestling competitions, I used to think we're kind of dumb. Like, okay, the strongest man wins. But there is a lot of stuff you can do. Like, there's a lot of a mental game.
Yeah.
And there's things you can do, like you just hold steady until the other person gets tired against you. Like you can be weaker than the person as long as you can hold steady.
Yeah.
Then they'll tire out and then you can take them down.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to go forward.
Yeah.
If you look at Smash Bros, Zero was he was one of the few players that actually like tried to win. Like that sounds weird, but he actually studied his opponents, everything they did, and he came up with counters to them.
Yeah. He also went for a win instead of trying to smash them out.
And yeah, he plays to win, not to outplay them. Like if you ever listen to like how he said how he'd play, he'd be like, okay, I'll let them hit me in this case, like a few times, so that they think, oh, I can hit him here, or I'll roll a lot from ledge, so they think, okay, here's a guy that rolls from ledge, and then I'll completely mix it up when it's important, because I'll do it when it's not important, and then when it's important, I won't do it, and then they won't.
Well, it's like playing chess. Like you can play chess to capture pieces, or you can play chess to get check.
Actually, next guy I was going to mention was Kasparov.
Yeah.
Because the way he played chess was, he would, I don't know if he still plays, but he would study his opponents very heavily. And people were terrified to play against Kasparov because when they played against him, whatever they did, he would already have a counter strategy for. So they would make a move and they'd be like, okay, I'll try out this technique sort of thing. And he'd just, boom, like he'd already thought of a way to defeat whatever they did. Because he'd been studying them and he knew, like, okay, when they do this, I'm going to think about it. Like, he might not be able to win blind, but he planned ahead. And he has the highest ELO rating ever, I think. And there's a reason. Like, now there's another, I think it's Carlsen that does this, but it might be Kasparov. But I'm pretty sure it's Carlsen. Where the way he does stuff is more like so that's like Musashi, right? He played to win.
Yeah.
But there's another technique where you have to be like, and I think this is more like MK Leo in Smash Bros. Or like Carlsen, I believe, but I could be wrong here.
Or the best player of StarCraft.
I don't know about him, but or there's also in the Kensho series for in sword fighting, what they do instead is they play the game to the best of their ability, but not to win. They just keep playing until their opponent loses.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually fascinating. Like, in the Kensho series, they talk about it like a sword fight is a dance.
Yeah.
And you just keep dancing until one person has a misstep, and then you win.
Yeah.
And that is how... like, MK Leo, like, if you notice most of his victories, they're very close. Like, he barely wins.
Yeah.
And it's usually because his opponent, like, SDs, like, they try to grab the ledge and they miss and they fall and die. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, well, that's kind of unfair. Like, he always wins due to luck, but he never messes up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, but he might always win because his opponent messed up, but he never messes up.
He's not going to play Captain Falcon and Falcon kick off the edge of the map, is he?
Yeah. Whereas you look at someone like Mars, and he plays to win. Mm-hmm. He play like more like Musashi. Like, if you hit, you don't get hit. Like, he will go all in, sacrifice everything because he knows that the trade is worth it.
Musashi inspired, like, I think it's definitely his writing, and then there's that TV series about samurai is inspired by Musashi, which is that very classic thing of the two sword fighters stand there and then they pass each other, and one of them collapses.
Yeah,
that was sort of Musashi's doctrine of what's going on there is you're basically hitting the other person and getting out of the way of their sword, or hitting and blocking, or hitting first, and that's like inspired by hit them and don't get hit. Like, hit first and you win.
I think, like, he was the sword fighter, so maybe he knew a lot better, but I think a lot of stuff gets this wrong. But maybe not, because he was the sword fighter, right? Like, he was in the situation a lot of times. But people don't die when you
Musashi talks about that. His whole thing, like, hit and don't get, like, that whole crossing and pass each other. Yeah. No, Musashi, like...
keep moving, get out of there.
Yeah, no, in one of his he's like, make sure your opponent's dead.
Yeah.
Kill
them and then run away.
Well, it's, like, this wasn't in the Going to Show, which is Book of Five Rings, but it was in one of his documentaries, A Strategy, which is, once you've, like, gone through once your first wave's gone through a battlefield, capture or kill everyone on the field because you don't want a force forming behind you and attacking.
But even that, like, that's one thing. But also, like, if someone's already dead, like, they've been stabbed through the heart or something, it's not like their, like, nervous system has been severed.
Well, there's, that thing, there's, like, that trope in movies where it's, like, someone stabs someone and they're, like, shocked and, like, and they die.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which Chinese movie it was we watched, but, like, one of the... I think two heroes end up killing each other and there's something stupid. Or maybe it's the villain, but this guy gets impaled and he's like the banner man.
Yeah.
And so he's impaled there. And then the hero gets too close to him and gets stabbed by the banner man. Even though, like, the banner man's dead, he's been stabbed through the heart. The banner man looks up and then stabs him, and that's how the hero died in the thing.
In the Jackie Chan film, they do that as well. When the Emperor is fighting Jackie Chan. Remember with the Romans in China?
Oh, yeah.
And the Emperor dies and then he stabs him in the back a bunch of times?
Yeah.
Like, so it is done a few times. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, get away, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Your Lies in April for a moment. And,
okay.
Because I was watching today, so I guess it's spoilers for the show here.
Yeah.
A bit. It's not really a show that spoilers are too bad, I don't think. Because it's more about the journey, almost. Mm-hmm. But still. So there's a part where so basically his problems stem from the fact that he was playing piano, and this is very early on in the show that they talk about this, because his mother was terminally ill, and he thought that if he won enough competitions, it would make her happy enough that she would get better.
Yeah.
And she used to beat him, like, so that he would learn piano better and stuff. And so he kept winning and trying to impress her, and she kept just saying, "You're not good enough, you're not good enough." Mm-hmm. And then she died. And so he was always playing piano for her. And the time when she died, like, he tried his hardest and he played his heart out and he won the competition, and he went to her and he's like, and she got out of the hospital just to see him play because she was in the hospital for like months or years before that. And then he's like, and then he got out and he's like, "I played my best for you, Mom." And she started beating him like crazy with her cane, like, "What are you doing? You're useless. You missed these notes. You missed these notes." And so he was playing for her, but she never reciprocated.
Yeah.
And then he can't play the piano anymore because like he gets like playing for someone, it doesn't work. Like you don't, it's just sort of he was never good enough, and he never got the praise or whatever. But then he starts playing for this violinist. Like he's like, well, I'll play for you then, and then like he's able to play again, and it's like amazing. But this is really interesting. I had to do I actually did a little bit of a search, like around looking for advice and stuff online, because his problem was that he was doing something for someone else, not for himself.
Yeah.
And then he solved the problem by doing something for someone else. Like he transferred it to someone else, right?
Yeah.
And so it got me thinking about like there's a lot of advice out there about how the best thing you can do is do stuff for other people. Like this is, and I've thought for like I don't know, a couple of years now, and it's really helped me out that this is bad advice, because.
And Ayn Rand agrees with you.
If you're doing stuff for others, you're taking away from yourself, right? You're hurting yourself for the benefit of others. Let's say, and that you're not a mind reader, so any of your actions, you have no idea what will make someone happy.
So there's this picture I've seen several times, and that
where a guy like tears out his heart and
it's not tearing out his heart. It's or Dad's used it, and several other people have used it. And I have mixed feelings about the picture, and it's shows this like older man with a hat, and there's a bunch of cubes missing from him.
Yeah.
And he's holding out a cube to a younger looking man who's just missing a cube from his chest.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be like father-son.
Yeah.
And basically the dad's like takes himself apart to build.
But he's like hurting himself, I guess.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing. Like, I don't like the view that you've had to destroy yourself or take yourself apart to raise someone else. Like, I don't think that's the right way to go about it, almost.
So, you going on with that, like, you're not a mind reader, right? Yeah. So if you do stuff for other people to try to make them happy, like if you're always like, we shouldn't say this around them because it might upset them, or, I made you this cake, and like you're constantly like giving them presents even though they give you nothing, and you're like, I'm doing this for you, sort of thing. And they're like, well, I don't like this or this. Then like you might be stressing out the other person as well.
Yeah.
And because you're not a mind reader, you don't know what they'll like, so you're making your life harder to help with that person.
Yeah.
But there is I couldn't quite figure it out because there's so much out. It's very hard to find stuff agreeing with that.
Yeah.
And with the idea of don't help others, sort of, which is kind of a weird thing to say because it's always help others. It's the most fulfilling thing. Help others.
Yeah.
And so then I came across something.
It's a quote from Michael Jackson,
which talked about how it's good to help others.
Yeah.
Right. But not if doing so requires you to take on their anxiety.
Yeah.
And they said, how do you know if you're taking on their anxiety or not? And they gave a list of like a few things.
You feel resentment for doing it?
Or guilt, and you want the guilt to stop, so you help them to stop the guilt. You don't do it because... But I think the main point I noticed in there, and this is something I haven't realized my entire life, and I think it's very, very important and helps separate that whole helping others versus put on your own oxygen mask first thing, right? Yeah. Because that's saying put on your oxygen mask first. First. It doesn't say put on your own oxygen mask and then sit there. It says put it on first and then, help those around you. Because then it's no cost to you to help those around you once you're like secured. But what this thing said was, if someone needs help and you help them, that's fine. Like you're helping them out. Like if it's no cost to you, so I think you're helping them out. The thing is, if it's they always need help. Like if they have an emergency once in their life, and you're there for them, that's fine. Or if your friend's like, hey, my bike tire's flat, like, can you give me a lift to work? You're like, yeah, sure. Give them a ride. Like, who wouldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
But if every day they're like, hey man, I need some money. Hey, my bike tire's flat. Hey, this, that. Then you have become their servant, sort of, and you are resenting them.
Yeah.
And no one's happy in that relationship.
Yeah.
And so when there's all this talk about helping others, what I didn't realize, and I don't know, like, this needs to be said more along with that statement is most people are already, or everyone I think is already helping other people.
Yeah.
And when you're saying help others, to, I don't know, maybe crazy people like me, I don't know how many others are like this, it sounds like you're saying do more.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's what's being said. So the example I can think of is it's very hard to see if it's a repeated thing or not.
Yeah.
Something that used to build resentment in me was supper at our dad's place.
Yeah.
You'd come home and be like, why haven't you guys made supper? Or why haven't you made supper? This sort of thing. And that got to the point like, I was like, what? If I wasn't here, then you'd just starve to death? Like,
yeah.
What's it? But at the same time, it's like, you want to help, you live in the house, you need to contribute, you want to help, you want to make this stuff yourself. And so the way I was looking at the situation was making supper is doing a favor for the other person.
Yeah.
And so helping others is, so when you say helping others is how you find happiness, it sounds like making yourself a slave is how you find happiness to me. But that's not what it means. It's like, if you go to your friend's house for Thanksgiving, and after you're all done eating, they're like, all right, let's watch, how about you just go into the living room and watch some TV while I do the dishes or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, come on, I'll help you out. Mm-hmm. That is helping others because it's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
But and it's very hard to separate, but if someone needs your help doing dishes every single day, and I don't know how you'd come across a situation like that exactly.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like the thing with making the supper every day. It's like, what, you can't do this without me?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, then what that means to me is that for you to make supper is a burden. Mm-hmm. Making supper is a burden. Or I am a burden because you need to make me supper.
Yeah.
And so I need to get out of this situation, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's such a... But... So I've been looking at helping others all wrong. It's not... helping others isn't becoming a replacement for them. It's not becoming their crutch. It's becoming a helping hand. It's like you don't become a crutch, like a literal crutch. Like you don't let them use you to get around everywhere. Like they lean on you It's like they fell down, you pick them up, you both go your own way. And so I think that's what helping others means. And
I agree with that.
So in this Your Lies in April, when he played the music for his mother, he was trying to cure her. And he was trying to make her proud of him and trying to make her happy.
Yeah.
When he played the music for the girl, he was doing it because she said, please, can you do this competition? Yeah. So he did one thing for her. Yeah. He didn't dedicate his life to her. And that is very different. Yeah. Like, it's not even like, he didn't dedicate infinity to her because his mother was a black hole that he could never fill. Yeah. Whereas this girl asked for one thing, and he was willing to give her it. Even though it was hard for him and it was traumatic for him. So it's not like there wasn't a cost to himself. Yeah. But it was a one-time cost he was willing to make because of love, basically. Yeah. And because of... and not only that, and I don't know where this fits in, it was something he needed to do for himself. Yeah. And
she's basically helping him help himself.
Yeah. And I think also...
Like, her asking him for help was also what he needed. Like,
yeah, she was doing it to
She was helping him by asking that.
Yeah. I think the whole entire plot is a little bit manic pixie dream girl. Like, this girl appears out of nowhere that's perfect for him and, like, solves all his problems.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Which author does all of that?
I think Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they have a bit of a twist on it because there's a girl that already likes him, so she's like, "Oh, wait, you just abandoned me for this person?" And
it's actually a bit of a common thing in anime, actually.
But she also isn't into him, so there is actually a bit more of a, and it's not I don't think the show is a romantic show. Yeah, it's just there is a bit more to it than just I fell in this girl, and also I'm pretty sure that girl's gonna die before the series is over because.
The violinist?
Yeah.
She probably has terminal cancer.
Yeah, well, like, actually, I think so. Because she like, randomly, like, falls over and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And...
She's the goner.
her, like, purse is full of, like, 1,000 pills and, like...
Yeah. No, she's a goner.
Yeah. And also, there's a line at one part where it's, like, his mother died and that trauma changed him, and now he can like play again, but his music is all touched with sadness, and I think he'll need to lose someone else before he's able to play with happiness again. I don't know what that means, actually. Like, what is that? Must be a Japanese thing, because like his mother died, so he's sad. So to get over his sadness, he'll have to have someone else die?
Well, it's basically he has to realize that death isn't I mean, it sucks, but it's not all-consuming void or something. I don't know. Like,
yeah, maybe
death happens.
Death isn't special.
Yeah, death happens.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I don't know what it means. It must be something like that. But
I don't know. Like, if I was to write a book, if I could have the guts to do what the writer Malzahn did, which is death happens.
Yeah, it's just like killing.
I think your Gollum book actually had a sort of death happens where you not even accidentally, but you wrote a character into a situation where, yeah, he's going to die.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know if that was planned or anything, or it was like, oh yeah, this person has to die to show this. More of like, oh, if this character ends up here, this is what he'll do. If he does this, this character will kill them.
Yeah, I think I didn't create the character with the intention for him to die.
Yeah.
But there came a point, I think, before the two met, where I decided that in a way, to get the message across, this character has to kill this character. Yeah. But then that was also, it wasn't just like, stab. It was, it's sort of like a natural process, sort of, where like one thing rises the other, like a feedback loop, and it ended up, I think, being fairly natural, and I'm not sure where it started entirely, but
whereas the story
it was like, this is something he would do.
I want to talk like this, but the story that I want to write, and I'll never write it if I do that, is a book about a group of assassins, and so I actually want a lot of death in it, just because it's about assassins.
I think, yeah.
And that's, like, basically has to be expressed that there's going to be a lot of killing going on.
I think, like, the end of Game of Thrones had this issue, I think, where if you have a lot of death, it becomes so meaningless, but at the same time, the characters that survive become so special to you that you like, they didn't kill Jon Snow or something, right? Like,
yeah, well, what I mean by not death among the characters, but I mean the assassins kill a lot of people. Like, maybe the assassin dies, but my more thought is, like, I want the assassinations like, you're with that one book you're writing about with the necromancer, basically, where you write from the perspective of characters who are about to get killed.
Yeah.
Like, almost that idea of, like my thought is basically blurbs. Like, know how some books have, like, at the beginning of each chapter, a little short story?
Yeah.
And it's basically like a short story of a person going through their life, and then they end up getting killed, and their death is suggested that it's one of the assassins who's in the main story killing them.
So,
and like the idea is basically all these assassins are training a kid, and he sees them all as good people.
That book,
and they're awful.
The book you're talking about, it's kind of interesting because there's already probably like 2 characters in it that I don't know if I could kill off anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, their mercenary company gets like destroyed at the start of the book, and there's a lot of like, one of the characters who the viewpoint's from her point of view, she dies.
Yeah.
But after that point, it's almost like the longer you survive, the safer you are, because like you get so attached to them. It's kind of how D&D's evolved, actually. It's funny. Like, D&D used to be like, your character dies, your character dies, your character dies. Making a new character every session was basically the idea. And then the idea was, okay, name your character once they get to level 2 or 3. And then, like, if they die, they die. But, you get more and more attached to them. But now it's like, the advice to DMs is don't even kill the characters.
There's this old trope of DMs even, which is like, your DM is a manic, power-hungry god who wants to kill you. And I think that's such a dumb trope, because the DM is all-powerful, so if he wants to kill you, he will. So you shouldn't, like, you're trying to kill me. It's like...
No, I think he's on your side, but the game used to be a lot harsher.
Yeah, but just the whole idea of, like, the DM's trying to kill me. It's like, no. the DM was trying to kill you, your character would be dead.
That said, 5th edition at level 1 is pretty rough. Like,
I am a rough DM, I think.
But it seems like basic creatures can do enough damage to kill someone in one hit.
Yes, they can.
Like, it's like once you go to level 2, your health doubles, and then you're way safer.
Also, one of the big things about 5th edition is clerics are actually so paramount in how good they are at keeping your party alive.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of a thing where they want to make the cleric a more, like, a role people want to play. But by doing it, they sort of acerate the problem because, like, if you don't have a cleric,
they just made
your party is in so much trouble because clerics are so important.
Yeah, they just made them necessary rather than desirable necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, they made clerics are ridiculously powerful. I think they're the most powerful class in the game.
Oh, by far.
But they're... I think playing... clerics, like in 2nd edition, I know best. Yeah. They have some very cool spells. They're very fun.
Yeah.
But the cool spells are not the healing spells.
Yeah. And people make you take the healing spells if you're playing with other people.
Yeah, because you want to keep everyone alive. And there is a certain amount of people out there that like plain support, but I think it's rarer than everything else. Mm-hmm. Of course, you only need one cleric out of 4 people, so...
Well, yeah. Well, a cantrip is Spare the Dying, and it stops you from dying.
Jeez.
Like, so know when you're doing death saving throws?
Yeah.
And you, so if you're dying, a party member can come and help you, and they have to roll to stabilize you. And if they do that, then it succeeds. If not, it's a failure, and then you have to keep rolling. So, a cleric, Spare the Dying, is a ranged cantrip that's a free action, which is they can point at you within like 10 feet of them and make you go to 0 hit points and stay unconscious. Or something. So it's like, Spare the Dying, Spare the Dying, Spare the... Like, there's a cleric of like healing in the party I was playing with. It's like, oh, the day he wasn't there, a bunch of people like almost died. And then like another combat which he was in, it's like, oh no, I'm dying. Cleric's got you. Oh no, I'm dying. Back to full health. Oh no, party heal. And it's like, holy cow, they need him.
But in my case as well, I only had 2 characters, and I think the game's balanced around 4, it seems like.
Yeah, I think so too.
And also...
Like, I noticed that actually in playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Where the first little play I had, I was just playing with a party of 2, and then I got to the party of 3. And, like, even then it was pretty hard. Then my other one, I had 4 party members, which is the max party size, which kind of annoys me. If I think that's just for multiplayer, but I like Baldur's Gate 6 party size or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they might change that, who knows, because there's a lot of changes that can happen. But with the 4 party members, it actually really rounds out how much you can do. And if you're fighting alone, you die. And
it's also turn-based, though, number 3, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So 6 might be a bit overkill. Like,
maybe.
That might be a pain to deal with. Because I think, like, for turn-based, you do need less... Mm-hmm. Actually, Baldur's Gate, like, when you're level 1, it's, like, really hard. And until you get Cure Poison at, like, level 4 or something? Like,
the Ball Child gets it at level 3.
Okay. Because if you don't have that, then, like if you did an Iron Man run of Baldur's Gate...
If you're evil, you don't get it.
Like, you cannot do an Iron Man run of Baldur's Gate without playing a Cavalier, I don't think.
I have read how you do them not playing Cavalier.
Yeah.
Like, speedrun Iron Man. And it
is... run away from...
No, the instructions are so dumb. It's like, go here, there's this kind of random encounters here, you have this percentage chance to surviving. If you can beat it, go to this spot, get these items from this location, this location, this location, get this party member here, do this here, do this here. And...
If you see an Eder cap, Alt F4 and start the game again. Because the Eder cap will kill you at level 2.
Actually, in Baldur's Gate 3, I encountered Eder caps and space spiders. And I was like... I'm only, like, my party's only level 3. I'm screwed. Luckily, I could actually win. But then it's like, okay, this dungeon, like, I'm going through, okay. And there's, like, phase spiders and there's air cats. And it's like, phase spider queen, 100 hit points. And I look at my party and it's like, the highest hit points are like 20. And I'm like, what is this thing? And beating it, I had to pull... the most Divinity 2 stunts that I knew to beat the thing. Like, it was... What was that called? Like,
Cheese?
Yeah, cheese. It was so cheese how I fought it. Because there's basically points of the map I couldn't get, and I could do it has like an army around it.
Yeah.
But I basically got to a point where it wouldn't aggro on me, and I could kill its whole army. And then even when fighting, I was like doing really cheeky things, like using summons, and even then I almost lost. Although I almost lost because of a bug. So,
do you remember the first time? I think it was the first time ever we played D&D, like ever, and like our dad was our DM, and the first thing we ever fought was a giant spider that had 100 hit points. We were level 1, and we couldn't figure out like how to beat it. Like nothing we were doing seemed to do anything, and it turned out it was an illusion.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know illusions were a thing in the game.
Yeah.
And it was funny. It was like sort of like a knowledge gap of like. If a normal D&D player was playing and they trusted their DM, they'd be like, okay, we are not scratching this thing with our best shots. Like, this is an illusion, or we need to get out of here. But us that had never played, we're just like, okay, we hit it. I do 6 damage. It's like, okay, it doesn't even flinch.
Yeah.
What is this thing?
Well, I remember another time we played, I think
that's actually how illusion magic should be, though.
Yeah, I think we've like played with our dad 4 times, or as him being the DM.
We did a complete camp scenario with him.
We've done 2 modules. We completed one of them,
and we did the one where like I think it was the one with the spider where like first time ever where it's like, hello, what do you want? Can we get a weapon? Oh yeah, weapons. What do you want? And I was like, can you have a gun?
But I think it was your birthday. We played one.
Okay.
And you got a special staff. And I was kind of upset that my +1 sword was only a +1 sword, while you had a +1 staff with special powers. It was your birthday, but I was like, I think like 8 or something, or maybe 7. And Dad had to convince me that +1 sword is actually really good. But we were going through the woods, and our dad didn't want us to be in these woods. And so he put a basilisk in the woods. And I remember running away from the basilisk, and I rolled a 1, and so my character tripped, and I got really, like, this is what I remember. I got really upset that I tripped, but apparently he did that because he put a different basilisk in the woods. If I kept running that way, like on his map, I would have run straight into it and got killed. And so it's like...
It's funny, too, because he could have just made it disappear if he really wanted. But he wanted honesty, I guess.
Yeah, but it's basically like level 1 characters in a wood full of basilisks, like we weren't meant to be in the forest.
I actually like his DM style. Like from the few times we've done it. It's very...
Yeah, we did the giant module as well with him.
Right,
that we got, and...
With the same characters?
No, we made new characters, but as a module for, I think, like level 3 characters, and as a module for 3rd edition, and we were playing it as if it was 2nd edition. We were playing with level 1, and so there's like fire giants and like ice giants, and like we basically were playing like hide from death. It's meant to be like hide and sneak around.
Yeah.
But it was super hide and sneak around because these are 2nd edition giants.
He's very like tough but fair, I think, him. Which I like his style. Yeah. That one module about the like the insect hive or whatever it was.
Those weird ooze creatures.
Very very well made. Like the thing I remember most was I was
so confused in that map.
I was a thief.
I was a wizard.
And you were a wizard.
Yeah.
Which is probably a terrible party composition.
We had a fighter NPC.
Oh, did we?
We had a fighter and a ranger NPC that Dad was controlling, that we basically... that they would follow us wherever we went.
Hid behind them. But there was a part where you have to, like, find a, like, hidden box in a house and the hidden key for it and, like, get past some traps and stuff.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel forced that we discovered it, and the way we disarmed the traps felt very natural. It wasn't like you didn't roll to disarm it. It was like you found like a rope that led into like a chimney, and like it was very cool.
Yeah, but that map, how like it didn't like we built.
Oh, it was very confusing.
Like you tried to draw out how it worked, and we got so confused until like, oh, this point leads to this point, this point leads to this point, this point leads to this point.
I was trying to draw a 2-dimensional map, but it turned out we were moving in 3 dimensions through like a sort of like an anthill.
Yeah.
Like so, it was very. So I needed like an up axis basically.
And also the dark elf was a jerk that we kept trying to rescue to join our party. So that's the other thing I remember, because it's like the description of the dark elf is he's a jerk who doesn't want to be rescued, and we kept trying because we both, I think, at that point played Baldur's Gate and thought we could get another NPC in our party, and so we really wanted him.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for like single player D&D almost, but like with a DM.
Yeah,
it's weird, but I think there's something to it.
Yeah,
it's hard though because, well, especially for like the two of us, because I think Well, I don't know about you, but I want to be a player more than I want to be a DM.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're the same, but I am also fairly opinionated on how a game should go.
Yeah.
And what I heard, the best advice I ever heard was angry DM about this. And he said, if you don't like how the DM is managing the game, start your own game with you as the DM, because that's the only way they're going to play the way you want. Otherwise, just accept whatever the DM does.
Yeah.
And I think like, I think that's, you just have to accept the DM.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I both, like, if we're DMing for each other, we're like, what's this? What's this nonsense?
Yeah.
What's with this stupid fox? And then you're like, why'd you drop me off a bridge and kill me? And
I learned my lesson in DMing of killing your darlings, and there'll never be a stupid fox again.
There might be a bridge again.
Yes, and I'll push the DM off it. What?
I think that bridge was meant to be an impassable obstacle, and then you guys just walked across it and died. And I stand by that. But it's a good time to wrap up anyways.
Yeah.
So, Your Lies in April, anime that, like, I don't... The plot isn't quite my thing, and there's a lot of stuff in that's not a fan of, but there's actually good, there's a lot of good stuff in there too, like the idea of how to help others in a healthy way. Anyway, it sparked a good idea in me.